Welcome into the Boston Sports Summit. I am your host, Tim Barnett, and this show is presented by the Grid Network. That is right. We had a big time win on Sunday with the Pats going against the Browns. I know it's the Browns. How big of a win really is that? Big enough. So I think it was a good win for the Pats just to keep the winning streak alive. Also, we got a big game coming up against Atlanta. Which Atlanta team we're going to get? We're going to get the team that's lost back-to-back games, or we're going to get the team that beat the Buffalo Bills the week after we did. So that's going to be interesting, as well as the Bruins are not looking good at all. It's going to be a very long season, I think, for this Bees team. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. So we got the Bees, we got the C's starting off on a 3-game losing streak, the first one in a very long time. But they've got a 2-game win streak going. Is this team good enough to go where they should go? Are they that talented? We'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, we are going to start off with the New England Patriots. We got to talk about their win on Sunday. I thought this was actually going to be a much closer game than it turned out to be, only because I thought the defense for the Browns was really going to hold New England back from scoring as many points as they probably could and or should against the Browns. I didn't think the Browns offense really had it in them to get the victory on Sunday, but my prediction was 24-17. I thought it was respectable. I thought that, hey, the Pats were going to get their points. They were going to go and, march down the field. It was just not going to be as consistent because you had Myles Garrett. You had the excellent pass coverage that Cleveland has, as well as Jim Schwartz as their defensive coordinator. All of that kind of wrapped up into one. I thought New England with Drake May was going to have a tougher time moving the ball against the Browns team. I just thought that was going to be the case. And in the first half, they proved me right. It was the second half that proved me wrong because the final score was 32-13. Just absolutely annihilated the Browns in that second half, just erupted in that third quarter, coming out of halftime. And it was a fun game. At the first half, there was a lot of things I was sitting there looking at, still very upset about because we should beat this team. There's no two ways about it. But also, too, that, hey, the Browns defense is that good. It's just their offense can't do crap. So, like that was a great game. It was a lot of fun. Definitely a game that, by the end of the third quarter, I was doing exactly what I said I was going to do last week. The game was running away with it. The Pats were running away with it. Kicked up my feet, had a beer, felt good, just took a big, deep breath, right? So when looking at the upcoming schedule, right, that's kind of a big thing because this schedule, as I've talked about before, is just too damn easy. And the Patriots are actually following through on it. Which sometimes when you have teams or schedules this easy, following through is not one of those things where teams do. I mean, look at that. Loss, win, loss, and then 5 straight wins. They are on fire right now. And that's what is so much fun about this team. Is that they are back, baby. I don't know how else to describe this, honestly. Because with the way Drake May has been playing, he's been playing like he's been a longtime vet. He's seen every defense, and he has the legs to roll around, run around, and, create more plays, more dynamic plays, which is something that is ecstatic and fun. Drake May is just a kid. He's 23 years old, and he is playing like he's in his 30s. Now, I'm not saying that he is that good. I'm just saying he's playing like it. He's playing like a guy where, hey, if I have to throw 50 times a game to get this win, that's what I'm going to do. And so that's what I love. And when, again, looking at the schedule, we got Atlanta at home coming up. And the $1 million question is, which Falcons team are we getting? When they beat the Bills, they did come off a bye, so they were a little bit more rested. They were able to game plan an extra week for Buffalo on top of watching us beat Buffalo during their bye week. So that helped them out, I think, a good amount. On top of the fact, I think even Buffalo just played down to their competition, reeling from their loss to New England the week prior. And that's what makes this game going to be interesting because, like I said, the Falcons beat Buffalo, and I will sit here and say that that is a big-time win and probably the biggest win for the Patriots this season. But they also got shellacked last week against the Dolphins, the lowly Dolphins, the team that honestly is a freaking joke. Like this Dolphins team, are we really expecting them to compete? Mike McDaniel is out of his mind. He's totally lost the locker room. He's lost everything in that building. And not to mention Tua is, I don't know if he's just wheeling and dealing, saying whatever the hell he wants because he's taking too many hits to the head, or if he's genuinely serious behind all of his issues and complaints with the Dolphins, with the coaching staff. So that team is a train wreck, and yet they annihilated the Falcons last week, 34-10. So who are we getting? And I'll talk a little bit more about the Falcons when I break down the game coming up. But just looking at the schedule, we're going to be in Tampa, which unfortunately I can't believe they didn't flex that game out. It's still at 1 p.m. a week from Sunday. Then we play Thursday night, home versus the Jets. We're in Cincinnati, which they still aren't going to have Joe Burrow. Then we have the Monday night game against the Giants in week 13, going into our bye, home against the Bills, at Baltimore, at the Jets, and then home against Miami in the final week of the season. I'm just saying, does that not look like an easy schedule where, especially if we beat Buffalo at our place this time, which they are going to be ramped up for that game. They're going to come in here wanting to do exactly what we did to them and kick their ass in their home stadium. So with that, I don't know. I mean, this seems like a good enough schedule. Now, Cincinnati, had they had Joe Burrow, would have scared me. And Joe Flacco, he's been good with the Bengals, but he's questionable right now. Is that going to linger? Is his body slowing down and he's not going to be able to play? And I'm not saying that he's not going to be ready for our game, but how many hits is it going to take for him to maybe, not be 100% come our game in just a month? So 3 weeks? Hey, schedule is a heck of a lot easier than I think we all gave it credit for at the start of it, even though I was joking like, oh, this is a 14-win team. But even with my, half-hearted joking at the, back in June, I still did not expect Drake May to be playing up to this level. I thought he'd take a second-year leap, but this level that Drake May is playing at is honestly next to none. Like I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback take such a drastic leap like Drake May has, honestly. So going back to this Cleveland game, I want to give out my game day grades. Now, the first one, letter A, the A's of the class. You're going to laugh at this one because I gave Drake May, Robert Spillane, and Myles Garrett an A. I understand this is a Patriots game day grades, but I'm sorry. Myles Garrett was just an absolute freak. And even though he plays for Cleveland, it would be phenomenal if all of a sudden we traded for him come Tuesday. But he was just absolutely insane with how he was getting to the quarterback, him lining up in a wide 9 tech, like just being able to take a couple steps. First of all, one of his sacks coming against Morgan Moses. Morgan Moses is, going backwards, shuffling back, and Garrett, full speed, just pushes him up by his triceps and basically shoves Garrett using his triceps like that an extra, 5-10 feet? He got right out of that way. Like Morgan Moses, there was nothing he could have done about that. And so Myles Garrett came up with a sack there. Then you have the situation of Drake May making the naked bootleg to his right. And as Drake May is bootlegging, he's going to the side that Myles Garrett is on. Which, first and foremost, if you know that's the play call, you're going to be rolling right, to the side that Myles Garrett is on, you might want to audible and go the other way. Because breaking down that film, watching the All-22, Myles Garrett takes his, and now Garrett's going left to right. The quarterback's to Garrett's right. So Garrett takes his first step, and as he's landing with his second step, you can see him already diagnosed that Drake May is 2, maybe 3 steps rolling right out of the pocket. Then his third step is this kind of pseudo hop. So his second step is with his left foot. His third step is this odd pseudo hop where he gets like an extra foot or two, but instead of going up at an angle, he goes more to the side to his right, plants on that right foot, and then uses that momentum to stop into the ground and then propeller to slingshot himself to his left side. It took 2 steps for Myles Garrett to diagnose that Drake May was rolling to his right on a naked bootleg, and then Garrett was just a physical freak where he was able to chase down Drake May. I think there were 2 things going on right there. Obviously, Garrett is just a freak in how he was able to catch up to Drake May and able to grab him by the back of the jersey and just pull him down. But also, a part of me did wonder if Drake May wasn't running full speed because he was trying to figure out who to throw to. And then when he realized, like, hey, Garrett's up my ass, like, I got to move. At that point, I think Drake May did turn on the jets. But Myles Garrett is just too good. I mean, even watching that live, I was laughing going, there's a lot of defensive ends, a lot of edge rushers that you can do exactly that and scramble and get away from. Myles Garrett, I think, is the only one you can't do that to. Like, that's how much of a freak he is. So I understand these grades are meant for Patriots only, but Garrett was just next level where you were watching greatness on Sunday. And that's why I had to give him an A, even though it's a Patriots grades only. So Myles Garrett, 5 sacks, unreal game. But getting back to the Patriots, you got Drake May, also with an A, 18-24, 282 yards, 11.8 yards per throw, 3 touchdowns to 1 pick, 67.5 QBR, and a 135.8 passer rating. That interception was god-awful. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know if just the linebacker in front of him just, disappeared from his vision, because he was looking past him, and that's why he threw the ball even still. Otherwise, Drake May I thought was great. And the funny part was the Patriots were able to move the ball almost the entire game, with the exception of a handful of possessions, which is going to happen. I'm not expecting them to get touchdowns every single drive. And again, this was the number one defense going into the game. So that's why it was interesting to me to see how they were moving the ball. They were getting into the red zone for most of the game, on all their possessions. But Drake May, again, just lights out. Really, really well done. Robert Spillane, 14 total tackles, an interception of his own, flying around the field. He was all over defensively, right there. Great game from Robert Spillane. Also gets an A. Now, getting to the B's. I surprisingly gave Will Campbell a B. I also gave the defensive line and Travion Henderson B's. Travion Henderson, let's start with him. 10 carries, 75 yards, no touchdowns, 1 fumble. He should have had that touchdown at the end of the game. Unfortunately, he fumbled the football, which is why I gave him a B. Without that fumble at the 1, then I would have definitely given him an A. Otherwise, I still thought a great game. 10 carries, 75 yards. And a part of me was definitely thinking, okay, was this kind of like a motivational game for Travion? Because Quinshon Judkins, his Ohio State teammate that transferred in for the lone year they won the national championship last year, that was Judkins' only Ohio State season. And Travion was there the entire time. Like, the two of them split the backfield. Judkins is on Cleveland. Henderson is in New England. 10 carries, 75 yards, 7.5 yards a carry. That's elite stuff right there. I think Travion was extra motivated this week, looking to get that breakout game. And yes, he did fumble. And no, he didn't score a touchdown. But I would argue this could be the start of a breakout season for Travion. This was a game that he absolutely needed and gained the confidence to do so. This is the best I've seen him look since the preseason. And that's, in my estimation, saying a lot. Because he hasn't been anywhere near this good since the preseason. I think, too, he wasn't concerned. He just took the ball and ran with it. And in the weeks earlier, I think he had a lot of expectations on his shoulders for himself and from us, the fans, saying that this is going to be our next guy, this is going to be our next guy. And with that, he became more timid. He became more, how do I say this? More methodical as a running back. And when you're a methodical running back, you're not going to do well. Not in this league. Very rarely do you see a running back get the ball, scan the field, think about where they want to go, and then go. And be successful at doing that. Lawrence Maroney is one of the running backs I remember vividly who would get the ball from Brady, and it felt like he would just bounce around in the backfield and then hit the hole. And he was obviously the weakest link in our 07 team, which is why we were, Tom Brady was doing what he was doing. But also, when it came time for the Super Bowl, the Giants didn't give a damn about our rushing attack, and rightfully so. So fast forward to today, now Travion would take the ball, hit the hole, and just go. And that's what he needed, along with the fact that, it's a little extra motivating, the fact that, his teammate who got taken right before him in the second round is on the other sideline. So I think Travion, great day from him. Then going to Will Campbell. Now, Myles Garrett doing what he did. I don't fault Will Campbell. I don't fault really the offensive line, Morgan Moses. I look at it as more of that's a future first ballot Hall of Famer. Straight up, no doubt. In Myles Garrett. So with Will Campbell being a rookie, this is a hell of a test for you, kid. And I thought he lived up to it for the most part. He did give up. He was a part of several sacks, including the very first one that Myles Garrett got inside the 10-yard line, where Hunter Henry chipped, and that threw off the timing with Will. And because of that, all of a sudden, Myles was able to just bowl right past Will Campbell and get to Drake May for the sack. Which, okay, partially on Henry, partially on Will, partially Myles Garrett just being a dude. But overall, though, I thought he was able to hold his own. Being in the pass blocking situations for over 24 times, I thought that there were a lot more good from Will Campbell. There's a lot more good from Will Campbell than there was bad. And with that, I thought he was the best offensive lineman that we had on Sunday. So that's why I gave him a B. I thought he was sturdy. Going against Myles Garrett is going against Myles Garrett. Arguably the best edge rusher in the game today. As I said, future first ballot Hall of Famer. But overall, though, Myles Garrett got several sacks. Myles Garrett got 3 sacks from the Patriots' right side and 2 sacks from the Patriots' left. So that's why I think Will Campbell had the best day out of any Patriots offensive lineman, hence the B. Next, defensive line. Defensive line, as you can see right in the middle there, deserves a B as well. I gave him the whole defensive line. They would have gone an A if it wasn't for Christian Barmore being held out of the first quarter. Why, I don't know. A lot of people are speculating that he missed a team meeting, a team curfew, something to that effect. That Vrabel just was like, "Hey, these are the rules. Gotta live with it, gotta deal with it." And he stuck to his guns, held Barmore out. Luckily, it was Cleveland, and it was that type of offense, so wasn't that big of a deal. But it just goes to show the discipline that Mike Vrabel has. That hey, I'm going to hold out our best defensive tackle because he screwed up. And so the fact that he screwed up, it's like, all right, cool. And even after the game, Barmore is just kind of like, yeah, you know what? I was wrong. I learned from it. And now we're going to move past it. I think everybody felt really good about that, which is interesting. It would be nice to figure out what it was. But I also understand why they're not going to disclose that information, because it's in that type of situation, need to know, especially with it being week 8 of the NFL season. If this was the AFC divisional round, AFC championship game, there'd be a lot more calling for what the hell happened. So otherwise, Khyiris Tonga was unbelievable. Right up the middle until his knee injury, which thank God it's not as serious. And then even Barmore, once he came back, was shot out of a freaking cannon and was just getting after Dylan Gabriel. He was disrupting the middle of the offensive line. It was just great to see in the bounce back. So, again, this defensive line is no joke. I mean, there's a reason why they haven't allowed, the Patriots defense has not allowed a running back to amass 50 yards all season, any running back has not gained more than 50 yards against us. That's pretty damn good, especially for a defensive line. Now moving on to just average. I gave it to Carlton Davis and Michael Onwenu. Carlton Davis, again, amassing another penalty this week. And don't get me wrong, I totally thought it was a BS call. It almost felt like the refs were looking around, being like, yeah, he gets penalties a lot. Okay, so flag, number 7, PI, and then you watch the replay. Again, what are we doing? This is the type of stuff that drives me nuts. And just goes to show that sports seem to be more entertainment than they are reality TV. Just dumb. Otherwise, again, thought very good game. Also going against really average at best receivers. Jerry Jeudy, Isaiah Bond. Not great. Not great talent-wise from them. So Carlton Davis gets a C. Michael Onwenu. Bad false start on that 3rd and 1. I nearly jumped out of my seat screaming at the TV because it's one thing when you're a receiver, when you're a tight end, and you have that jump. You have that itchy, I got to go. Because with them, the receivers have to run their route. They have to beat their man, especially if they're facing press coverage. They have to get off that press coverage to be able to get on time with the quarterback and be able to hit their route, hit the top of their route and go, and make sure that they're right there for the quarterback to release the ball. And for tight end, they have to, again, get in their route, beat the man coverage, add a chip, maybe stay blocking, maybe stay in and block, help out the tackles. In this game, you definitely needed to. But you're a right guard, and you're the highest paid offensive lineman on our team. The highest paid. And you're right there. Your left ear as the right guard is 2 feet away from the quarterback. And you jump on a critical 3rd and 1 in the game. Yes, we won the game going away. Yes, it was 32-13. But at this juncture in the game, it is 3rd and 1, and you lost us 5 yards because of it. That is what bothers me. It's the little things. The little things like that you sit there and you just shake your head going, what are we doing? You're the snap count. You know the cadence. You know how Drake Bay calls this. And you still jump. That nearly threw me off the edge, obviously. So, and not for nothing, too, he also allowed the most hurries of any offensive lineman on Sunday. And he didn't even face Myles Garrett. With that being said, yeah, I thought I thought Onwenu had an average day at best. So that was my issue with Carlton Davis and Onwenu. And then going to D's, just all around bad games. Craig Woodson, Hunter Henry, and Bryce Behringer. Now, starting with Craig Woodson, he missed another tackle, gave up another passing touchdown to a tight end. I mean, if that's the case, why do we even get him and trade Kyle Duggar? Kyle Duggar could do that all day long. So the fact that Woodson is still in these situations begs the question, what are we doing at safety? We need help in our defensive backs, I think. So Woodson, Not a good day. Behringer shanked his 15-yard punt that set up Cleveland just outside the red zone. Was bad. It feels like every game or every other game, Behringer has an awful punt. And this was that game. It would be interesting to see how long it's going to take for him to have another bad kick like that. Now, luckily for Bryce, he didn't have a lot to do today, or he didn't have a lot to do on Sunday because the Patriots were driving the football, we were getting in the red zone. We got in the red zone 6 times, and we scored touchdowns, I think, on 2 of them that were outside the red zone. Otherwise, Behringer didn't have a lot to do. So when you don't have a lot to do, yeah, you're really graded on the 1, 2, maybe 3 times that you do punt, that you do get that action. And one of those punts was a 15-yard punt that set Cleveland up just outside our red zone. Or, yeah, just outside the red zone for Cleveland. And to me, it's, again, yeah, you're going to have bad punts. I'm not saying that it's a statistical impossibility. But when you're only getting in once, twice, 3 times in a game because your offense is getting points, scoring touchdowns, getting field goals, you got to make those 3 possessions count. And right there, it gave Cleveland the perfect opportunity. That's why they got to 13 points, is because of that 15-yard punt. Otherwise, it would have been 7 points. And whoever had the Patriots defense as their fantasy defense, i.e. me, would have scored more points because they wouldn't have got that second touchdown. Just saying. And then lastly, Hunter Henry deserved a D because he had, yes, 1 catch, 7 yards, 1 touchdown. He got the touchdown. Great. Normally that I would absolve him of this poor grade because he did get a single touchdown on a single catch. But his chipping ability against Myles Garrett was just downright awful. Downright awful. I was stunned. And not to say that I thought Myles Garrett was this, how do I say this, savant that you could argue on blocking. Like, he's not a great blocker. I knew that's not his game. He's a receiving tight end. But 1 catch on 1 target, 7 yards, and 1 touchdown. And just was atrocious. The only time he was able to stop Myles Garrett was when it was him and Austin Hooper. The 2 of them. 2 tight ends. It took the block. 1 stud of an edge rusher. So that's the part of his game. I'm not expecting the world. I'm not expecting him to be Gronkowski out there in terms of chipping. But, dude, lower the shoulder a little bit more, could you? I understand it's a tough battle. But you're supposedly a tough guy. And I'm not trying to question his toughness. But in terms of chipping, you could do a little more. You could be a little bit better than Travis Kelce, who does 0 chip blocking. Who refuses to get his hands dirty because he's a diva, prima donna. You know, he's dating Taylor Swift or he's engaged. Ooh. Travis freaking Kelce, please. Overrated hack. Obviously, he's very good. But he is no Rob Gronkowski, I can tell you that much. He's a receiver, not a tight end. Otherwise, all right, so now when it comes to just bad days overall, the red zone offense. The red zone offense, as I mentioned earlier, they were 2 for 6 on the day. Now, those 2 obviously mean scoring touchdowns, but of those 6, 2 of them were caused by a fumble by Travion Henderson And the other one was the Patriots got inside the 20 at the 19, and then Drake May proceeded to kneel the football. So they got the first down, they got in the red zone, but then they kneeled down. So you could argue that it should have been 2 for 5 because obviously Trevion's fumble still counts. but still, it's a 33% day in the red zone is not good enough. I love our defense. I think our defense is still in certain areas, as I'm going to talk about when we're discussing the Falcons, can still get better. And I think they're talented enough to be better than what the stats say. But when getting inside the red zone, you're going to need to score touchdowns. Because when looking at the playoff picture, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but I'm just saying that when looking around this playoff picture, if the playoffs started today, the Patriots would be at Gillette Stadium versus Kansas City. I still like our chances, but if we get into the red zone 6 times, not including a kneel down situation, not including that, but if we get into the red zone 6 times and we only come away with 2 touchdowns, if those are the stats that I'm reading after the divisional round or after the wild card, I'm going to assume that the Kansas City Chiefs won that game. Because, as I said, we would face Kansas City in the wild card if it started today. And if I saw that we were in the red zone 6 times and scored 2 touchdowns, I would assume we'd lose. Because when you're going against teams like Kansas City, like Buffalo, like Denver, and right now, like Indianapolis, I'm leaving Pittsburgh out because they suck. They're overrated. I would be shocked, actually, if they do end up making the playoffs. But you are going to have to score touchdowns. As we used to say all the time, when teams would come and face us, and we would dissect the games afterwards, we'd look at the games against whoever the Tom Brady and the Patriots were playing, and we would see that their first 4 drives of the game were field goal, punt, field goal, field goal. It's like, all right, hey, you got 9 points off of four drives. Cool. Now, let's look at the Patriots' first 4 drives. Touchdown, 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 punt. Oh, 21-9. Yeah, you're going to need to score touchdowns, guys, in order to beat us. That's how that works. And so while Drake May has been able to move the ball, even against this team, I was very surprised that the first drive of the game, we were marching down the field with ease. We were able to do that for a majority of the game. As I'm looking around saying, wait, this is the number one defense here. I thought that we weren't supposed to move the ball. I thought that this was going to be a much harder game. But it kind of was. But it was self-imposed. Especially since the way we start games off on defense, we're giving points on points on points on points. Even this game, with Dylan freaking Gabriel as the quarterback, what do? After we get the field goal to start the game, they march down the field, get a touchdown. Now they're up 7-3. Then they get the ball back with an ability to go up 10-3. And luckily for us, the kicker sucked and missed it. But 10-3 at that time would have changed a lot, because now that they missed, all right, still 7-3. We go down in the red zone. kick a field goal. They get back, punt. We get the ball. We go down at the half and kick a field goal to make it a 9-7 lead at the half, which is great. We, when looking at the half, we didn't deserve that lead, to be honest with you, but we just hung around and stuck around. But the issue with that is it's also the Cleveland Browns. They don't have a good offense and overall on a great team. You do that against Kansas City, against Buffalo, Indianapolis, Denver, hell, maybe even the Chargers. And you're not coming back in the second half. You're going to fight. You're going to try. I can imagine that this team is still going to get that fight in them to go and do it. But overall, I don't see it happening. So it's great that we have such an easy schedule for the rest of the season. But one of the things I'm going to be paying attention to is going to be our red zone offense and our red zone chances and how many times were we successful in those red zone opportunities. Because if we're averaging 1 out of 3 possessions that we get inside the red zone to equal into a touchdown, then we're not going to have a deep playoff run. I can guarantee you that. We're just not, because that's not how you win games in the NFL in the playoffs. I think right now anything can happen. Like, this postseason is going to be wild. I think there is really no stout team in the NFL right now. I think everybody has their weaknesses. But at the end of the day, just because plenty of teams have their weaknesses, you're still going to have to score touchdowns to win games. That's how winning is done. In the NFL, you have to score touchdowns if you're going to win the game. So that's going to be interesting, an interesting stat to watch for the rest of this year, especially with Atlanta and then Tampa coming up. 2 pretty good teams. And speaking of Atlanta, we got them on Sunday here at Gillette Stadium. 3-4 Falcons taking on the 6-2 Patriots. Now, when looking over the positional grades, or comparisons, I should say, I don't see how you can take Michael Penix and or Kirk Cousins over Drake May right now. When it comes to running backs, I agree. Even if it was just Bijan Robinson and we had Ramondre, Travion, and Antonio Gibson all healthy, all going, I would still take Bijan Robinson. I mean, that would just be foolish. So, of course, I gave the edge to the Falcons at running back. But then, wide receiver. Yes, they have Drake London, and Darnell Mooney's a good second option. But with the way our receivers have been playing, I mean, yeah, I kind of like what we do better. I think we are more, I don't want to say talented. I think we're a more steady team. And that's gonna show up obviously too, because in tight end, I like Kyle Pitts. I like him a lot. But he's hurt quite a lot. And also, he hasn't really broken out in the NFL like his draft stock said he should. He was drafted 4th overall by the Falcons? And he's an extremely talented receiver. He was a hell of a receiver at Florida, where he played at college. But as it stands right here, right now, yeah, I would take Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper over Kyle Pitts. And then O-line, the Patriots are still one of the top O-lines in the league, especially according to PFF. That's why I got them. D-line and linebacker, I like our guys just a little bit more. And then for defensive backs, same thing. I like their guys just a little bit more. And I am saying that with the intention of Christian Gonzalez is playing better. He's playing very well. But I'm wondering, too, he might still be working back from his hamstring. And that's not me saying that he sucks. But he's still working back. Luckily for him, he got to play against Jerry Jeudy, which is a joke. But Atlanta is the number one passing defense in the NFL right now in terms of pass yards allowed per game. So on top of Carlton Davis not necessarily earning the $20 million on top of all the penalties that he keeps drawing or keeps inciting, and Christian Gonzalez playing back, our best defensive back is Marcus Jones, who we just re-upped for 3 years, $36 million, which is phenomenal. Great deal. Glad that he re-signed and all of that. And it's just that, both all those little nuances for the Patriots DBs. And then you're looking at Atlanta's defensive backs, number one pass defense in terms of yards allowed. I'm leaning just slightly with the Falcons there. And so then, obviously, special teams. They got Paco Romo, who I thought beat out Andy Borregales, in our preseason, and then they signed him. But I like, even then Bryce Behringer did shank a punt, but I still like our guys better. I think we get the better special teams, especially with Marcus Jones, our punt returner. Absolutely. Now looking at the quarterback comparisons, Michael Penix missed last week's game due to an injury. So Penix has played 6 games. Drake May has played 8. Penix has thrown for 1,409 yards. Drake May has thrown for 2,026 yards. Penix has a 61% completion percentage, whereas Drake May has a tick above 75% completion percentage. Penix has a 5 touchdowns to 3 interception ratio, whereas Drake May has 15 touchdowns to 3 picks. Michael Penix has a passer rating of 85.2, where Drake May's passer rating leads the NFL at 118.7. And then Michael Penix has a QBR of 49.1, whereas Drake May's got a QBR of 76.3. Stud. Absolute stud. Drake May is. And so I think that it's going to be interesting, and I'm not sure whether or not Michael Penix is going to be able to play on Sunday. But even if he isn't, I don't expect Kirk Cousins to be the savior, because he was the starter last week, and he scored 10 points as the quarterback, and they got killed against the frickin' Dolphins of all teams. So now looking at the offense and defensive comparisons. So Atlanta's offense throws for 219.4 pass yards per game, which is 13th in the NFL, whereas New England's pass defense allows 224.4 yards per game, which ranks 19th in the NFL. The Falcons' rushing attack averages 123.3 yards per game, which is 11th best in the NFL, whereas the Patriots' rush defense allows 76 yards per game, which is 2nd in the NFL. And as terms of scoring, the Falcons' scoring offense only gets 17.1 points per game, which is 28th in the NFL, which is 5th worst in the NFL. The Patriots' scoring defense, though, only allows 18.3 points per game, which is fourth best in the NFL. That's an interesting dynamic right there. Because while the Falcons are able to get yards, they're kind of falling into the trap that I was just bitching about with the Patriots. Not scoring, not getting the job done, not even getting friggin' points, let alone touchdowns. So, moving on to the Falcons defense and the Patriots offense. The Patriots offense averages 240.5 pass yards per game, ranking 9th in the NFL. Whereas I mentioned earlier, the Falcons have the number one pass yards per game defense at 149.1. The Patriots' rushing attack averages 112.6 yards per game, which is 18th in the NFL, whereas the Falcons' rush defense allows 126.4 rush yards per game, which is 21st in the NFL. Then New England is 8th best in the NFL in terms of scoring, averaging 26.6 points per game, where the Falcons are just better than middle of the pack, allowing 22 points per game, ranking 14th amongst all teams. So last week, Drake May was going up against a test that was essentially Myles Garrett. Not the defensive line, not the DBs, Myles Garrett. That's what that test was. How can he handle that pressure and being sacked multiple times that game? Which, I don't know about you, but I was thoroughly impressed with how Drake May was still able to be poised and calm, collected as the game went on, having been sacked numerous times over the course of that game. So that, to me, was a hell of a test for Drake, even though the Browns team isn't that good. But now with this, they're going against the best passing attack, best pass defense in the NFL right now. How is Josh McDaniels and Drake May going to handle that? I'm very intrigued because that is going to be, I think, the crux of this situation. I do believe that we should be able to run the ball. I think that's going to be a given. But I don't think it's as much of a given as both Ramondre and Travion are going to be rushing for over 100 yards and Drake May is going to throw 15 times. We're going to win 45-7. No, it's all going to be on the ground. No, that's not how this game is going to go. It's going to be an interesting test because of how Raheem Morris gets his defense to disguise at the snap, right before the snap, one situation like, okay, you got a single high safety. That could be a cover 1, 3, 5. Oh, we got two high safeties. That could be a 2, 4, 6. All right. And then how are they going to transition post-snap? How are they going to disguise the blitzes? If they do blitz, are they going to try to get Drake May under pressure like he was against Cleveland and just focusing on getting rid of the ball? Best thing about Josh McDaniels in his offense is that he loves the dink and dunk. He loves just snap, boom, get rid of the ball. That's it. Atlanta's got a very good defense. Now, can their offense live up to it? I don't know. Because, as I mentioned earlier, Michael Penix is questionable. He didn't play last week. Also questionable. Drake London, star wide receiver. Darnell Mooney, number 2 wide receiver. Kyle Pitts, number 1 tight end. Jesse Bates III, former Cincinnati Bengal. He's questionable. at safety for the Falcons. Jalen Walker, rookie, guy we discussed on this show when it came to the NFL draft this past year. Was Jalen Walker a possibility for New England? If so, what is he like? He is questionable as well. The health of the Falcons is huge. Huge. Drake London was poised to play all week last week, and then all of a sudden, the Friday before the game, comes up with a hip injury and doesn't play on Sunday. Which is probably another part of the reason why Kirk Cousins wasn't that good and that the Falcons got their asses handed to them by the friggin' Dolphins. So, the guy that the Pats need to focus on is Bijan Robinson. That's it. That's where you're looking at it going, you're the only one that can truly beat us, and we don't want that. So we're gonna shut you down. And right now, the Patriots have been crushing it in terms of not allowing running backs to gain more than 50 yards yet. Only team in the NFL right now not to do that. So that is going to be a very interesting game. But when it comes all said and done, I'm leaning more on the conservative side of the game. I think that the Falcons are going to get some points, but overall, the Patriots are going to walk out of July 27-17 winners over the Atlanta Falcons. And again, kind of going away. I think what's going to happen is it's going to be a 27-14 game in the waning stages of the game, 2-minute warning, right around that area, either slightly before or slightly after. Falcons are marching. They get into field goal territory. Rather than burn more clock, they set up for the field goal. They hit the field goal. They go for the onside kick. Patriots get the ball. Kneel down. Ball game. 27-17. That's the final. So, as I talked about earlier, just looking at the playoff standings, we have the Patriots still sitting poised at number 2. Buffalo's in the wild card. Indy still, got the bye week. I think it's going to be good. I think we're in a very good spot right now. Now, turning over to some of the comments. What are your Sports Mom frequent commenter? What are you predicting to be the score of the Pats Falcons? 27-17. And then frequent commenter, not Doug. How does the team react to the trades this week? So that's another big one. Because, and thank you for that, it leads right in to what I want to talk about. So the Patriots traded away Keon White and Kyle Duggar and didn't really get much in return, but I'm going to be honest, I would have been shocked had we gotten at least, or at most, I should say, a middle round pick. There's no way that Keon White and Kyle Duggar, obviously got traded 2 separate places, but they weren't going to give us a haul. Like, we weren't going to get that haul back for them because they haven't done anything. As I said a couple weeks ago on this show, I had Keon White as a D or an F because he's been invisible. He's done nothing. And I loved Keon White. I thought he was going to be a great edge rusher for us. I thought he was going to really I thought he was just going to be this freak in a good way. But it turns out he was just a friggin' no-show. And that's what kind of sucks. So Keon White gets traded to San Francisco. Kyle Duggar gets traded to Pittsburgh. I think in terms of how the team reacts, I think they understand it's the nature of the beast. I think that they know, hey, this is going to happen. Especially with how the NFL is trying to get more teams to trade with one another. The only reason why they don't is partially because of the dead cap issue that, you have a guy with a signing bonus and guaranteed contract. It's not a simple, hey, here's the player, I'm trading to you, you get the rest of his contract, and you take care of everything else, prorated and however much longer he has on the deal. Unfortunately for the team that trades the player away, that's not how it's not as simple like that. Whereas the NBA is a whole other slew of crap when it comes to trading players and luxury all that nonsense. NBA is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs on top of being WWE, as confirmed with Chauncey Billups and all that. But so, in other words, the NHL and Major League Baseball, you trade a guy, here you go. You get everything, guaranteed everything. That's all you now. Unless we retain a little bit of that money to help sweeten the pot for you to accept this deal, yeah, we're not doing that. So in the NFL, though, the trading team, the team that trades a player away, incurs a dead cap penalty that carries over a year or two, which hurts the salary cap for the team in the future. Now, that is an issue when it comes to trading away guys who are superstar players, who have term on their deal, who are getting paid a lot of money. You would have to really sweeten the pot with players, with draft picks, multiple first rounders, stuff like that. But when it comes to Keon White and Kyle Duggar, I think the team might not really be fazed by it, to be honest with you. I think they understand it's a part of the business. I think what Mike Vrabel does is he's very upfront with his players. Again, it's not like I have firsthand knowledge, like I'm in the locker room or I have an inside source. I don't. I'm just saying how Vrabel comes off. He seems to be a very blunt and honest guy when addressing the team, because why would you want to tiptoe around that and get your players looking at you going, wait, but you just traded them away. How can you sit here and say X when you really did Y? No. He's just like, I guarantee it probably went something along like, okay, guys, so we just traded Keon White, Kyle Duggar. We think this is going to better our team. Let's all just, hey, we love Keon, we love Kyle, wish him nothing but the best. But I think in terms for us to be a contender, I think that's the best thing for us to do is to go, all right, set our piece. Now let's focus on the Falcons. Something like that. Probably a lot smoother and better than what I just said. Otherwise, I think everything's fine. I don't know necessarily if the team would be brokenhearted over it. The funny part is, though, when you're looking at Keon White, he was drafted in 2023, right? Yeah. Let's go back and look at the draft classes from 21 to 24. Look at all those red lines. You just traded away your second-round pick from a draft 2 years ago in Keon White. And it just doesn't stop. Because in 2023, now that Keon White is out, all right, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys now from the 23 draft. You have 2 guys from the 21 draft, 1 guy from the 22 draft, and you have 2 guys from the 24 draft. Like, what are we doing? In the last 4 drafts, before, not including 2025, we have 10 guys. That's it. 10 players remain on this team from the 4 drafts starting in 2021 going to 2024. Christian Barmore, Ramondre Stevenson, Marcus Jones, Christian Gonzalez, Marte Mapu, Keyshawn Boutte, Bryce Behringer, Demario Douglas, Drake May, Caden Wallace. That's it. If this team is going to succeed past 2025-26 season, they are going to have to hit on these draft picks. Right now, Borregales looking like a pretty good pick out of this year's draft. Travion Henderson trying to find his footing right now. We got guys, Kyle Williams. Where has he been? Drake May is completing 75% of his passes. But every time he targets Kyle Williams, the ball sails over his head. It's short. It's wide. Why is Kyle Williams the only guy that Drake May just can't hit? Is that worth kind of thinking about, worth questioning? Guy completes 90% of his passes in a single game, yet can't hit Kyle Williams if his life depended on it? But all the other receivers, the ball hits them square in the chest, or they catch it with their hands just where the ball needed to go. Kind of weird, right? So you have drafts where they need to do better. They need to get it under control. Will Campbell looking like a good draft pick. Travion Henderson, Kyle Williams, Andy Borregales. That's 4 guys. That's nice. And I know it's extremely difficult to hit on guys as the rounds keep going. There are guys that turn into studs that will work out. I mean, Jared Wilson is okay, but I think he can be a solid interior offensive lineman as long as he gets the reps, as long as he keeps working hard and just honing his craft, basically. As I talked about last week when Pete asked the question, I think it would be best if Jared Wilson does move into the center position and take over for Garrett Bradbury next year. Dump Bradbury and let Wilson take over. Let him be the full-time center. I think that would be the best thing for Wilson. But this upcoming draft class, everyone's talking about edge. Everyone's talking about running backs. And I get it. If we're going to trade for a running back, I don't want to give up a lot of capital. I don't. I also don't want to get a warm body just to say, hey, look, we traded for a running back. If you get a backup, a third-string running back from another team, I think that's a disservice to trading for a running back. I don't think that makes sense come Tuesday's trade deadline at 4 p.m. I think that's crazy. But when it comes to edge rushers, that is absolutely a need for this team. I like what Harold Landry has been doing. I like what Kayvon Chason has been doing. But if we have the opportunity to get a Trey Hendrickson, to get guys who can come in and take over games, surprisingly enough, I don't know how these rumors started happening. I don't know why they started happening. But indulge me. I would love to see the Patriots trade for Myles Garrett. I would. Myles Garrett is the type of player that is going to waste away in Cleveland. They're never going to win anything. They don't have a quarterback, and they're not getting a quarterback anytime soon between Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. I can almost guarantee you that neither of them are going to pan out. And so Myles Garrett is just going to waste away in Cleveland. Here's the thing, though. I am also not dumb enough to know that Myles Garrett requested a trade out of Cleveland early this year. The Browns were like, hell no. We're not going to trade him. And instead decided to offer him a boatload of money that he signed for. And he put pen to paper and wrote Myles Garrett and committed himself to the Browns and their organization. So Myles Garrett is not this sweet innocent child like, oh, somebody's got to save him. No. He committed himself to the Browns organization. He knew exactly what he was doing. Even though he said he wants to be on a winner, on a contender, instead he traded championships for money. That's basically what he did. And that's what kind of sucks to some degree, is when you see stuff like that. You're like, really? I would have lost my marbles if Kansas City traded for him. It's just like, oh, there we go again. You know what I mean? I hate Kansas City. But no, in all honesty, though, I think looking at it right now, yeah, it's a lot of money. But Drake May's still in his rookie contract. It's year 2. It's not until the end of year 3 where they could pick up his 5th-year option, being a first-round quarterback and a first-round draft pick at that. That's why you still have time before you're giving Drake May, you're resetting the market with Drake May. That's what you're going to do. You're going to reset the whole friggin' market with Drake May's contract. That's why you got to do this stuff now. This team has been preaching for a very long time, hey, if we had a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract, we could trade for that wide receiver. We could get that defensive end. We could get that cornerback, that stud corner. But hey, Tom Brady's here. He's not on a rookie deal, even though he took cheap money. He did not live up to his status in the NFL in terms of what his contract numbers look like. But the Patriots now finally have an opportunity to do that. Say, hey, we finally have our stud rookie quarterback. Is this something worth exploring? It's a rumor. I know. Is it going to happen? Doubt it. But let me ask you. Comment down below. Would you give Cleveland 2 number ones, your next 2 number ones, next year and the year after, to get Myles Garrett in that contract? Would you do that? Let me know down below. Because you'd really have me thinking. That would be a really, really hard question. That'd be a really difficult question. Because I would sit there and truly contemplate that. Because Myles Garrett is 29 years old. He's not even 30. And he's still got, minimum 3 years left remaining on his deal? I know it's a pipe dream. And for some reason, people are speculating that the Patriots are going to be making moves. That's what's going to happen. The Patriots are going to, they're going to be there. They're going to get their guy. Why not swing for the fences? And for Cleveland, you know what? Getting multiple number ones out of the deal right now is worth it. If they wait next year, the year after, if Myles Garrett, God forbid, goes down at some point with Cleveland, his value is shot. That's why I think it's crazy. And frequent comment to not Doug answer my question. Yes, he would. And give up 2 number ones to get Myles Garrett. So it's going to be interesting to see what this trade deadline brings. And I'll be sure to stay up to track and keep you guys informed. And, hey, might even do a trade deadline special on Tuesday, to discuss, if anything. And that trade deadline special will be if the Pats actually did something. But if they do something, I think that would be a lot of fun and be really interesting to discuss. So stay tuned to that. But we're going to be moving on now to the Boston Bruins, who are currently have a 3-1 lead against the Sabres right now. And honestly, I said that this team was going to sneak into the 8th seed. I still think they can do that. I still think they have the capability of doing that. But the issue that I have is that you have multiple people chiming in, and especially the coach chiming in, saying that, oh no, we can't do that. We don't have plenty of people bought in to what we want to get done. And that's why after watching some of these games, I'm sitting here going, we're just going to tank. We should. And I don't mean that like you walk in after this game tonight, win or lose. You walk in as the general manager, the owner, even the head coach, and say, hey, guys, just want to let you know, we're going to be playing for the best draft position next year. So do me a favor and don't try. Just try hard enough. Make it look like you're trying, but really don't. No one's going to say that. Like, you'd be stupid not to do it. You're stupid to say that. And you would destroy all the competitive juices that are in that locker room. That's just not going to happen. But what I constantly find interesting is Marco Sturm is harping on the idea that not everybody is bought into what he's selling. And I get it from a standpoint of, yeah, all right, what you're selling is you're a brand new head coach, you're a former player, you've been bouncing around, the NHL, but you were a head coach in the AHL for a while. So now here's your real opportunity to be the head man of an NHL team, and it just so happens the team you were a former player on. Am I talking about Gerard Mayo? Oh, no. Sorry. No, it's Marco Sturm. I know. I just lay up. But he keeps harping on how his team hasn't been bought in. And after that abysmal loss where Swayman allowed 7 goals to the Senators without Brady Tkachuk, going 16 of 23 saves versus shots faced, a .696 save percentage, and 7 goals allowed. Here's what Marco Sturm had to say after the game.
You either buy in or not. That's right there. That's the difference, and that's what if you just look at the Ottawa team today, and they do it, and we're not, and that's the game.
Penalty kill.
You either buy in or not. How are we still not bought in? How is this team still facing difficulties where the head coach is consistently calling them out? They're 5-7 right now. They're last in the Atlantic Division, or at least tied for last in terms of points. But if you marked it off before tonight's game, we would be dead last. I don't know what to say about this team right now. They are just not good. And yeah, part of that is because of the fact that if Marco is right, which I would be shocked if he wasn't, is the team isn't bought into what he wants, what he's selling, what he's trying to say to the guys. Hey, listen, let's play like this. And clearly, it's not working because Marco's coming from a standpoint where he's talked about it leading up into the season that he wants to play hard-nosed defense. He wants to win games 1-0, 2-1. He wants his goalie to be there, stand on his head, his defense to be right in the faces of everyone, making sure that it's almost impossible to get a shot off. But our number one D pairing leads the league in goals allowed against 5-on-5. They are tied with Cam Fowler and Colton Parayko. Allowing 10 freaking goals. I talked about this last week. Lowry needs to build up. He needs to start to get thick. He needs to start to put on muscle. I understand he's got a tall frame, but he's got to put on that muscle because he's weak on his stick. And it was clear last week when he allowed that goal, just throwing a stick out there and nothing happened. The guy was like, okay, right through it. And Charlie McAvoy has not been any better. Charlie McAvoy is a typical offensive defenseman who isn't doing any offense and not doing any defense. You're just sitting there questioning what is going on. And there's a reason why you lose 6 straight games. I understand, Tim, it's early in the season. They're still trying to figure it out. Well, you know what? A lot of these guys played together last year. Yes, they got some additions. Yes, you got a lot of younger guys becoming more full-time. Yes, you had a lot of additions on the bottom 6. But the top 6 and your defense pairings, for the most part, played together last season. They know each other. They should know enough where losing 6 straight, it's not a fluke. It's not a one-off. They did come together against Colorado in a game where it was inevitable that having lost 6 straight, you were going to lose 7 because you're playing the friggin' Avs. But they somehow pulled it out of their ass and got the win in regulation of all times. And now they've been, hot and cold, right? After beating the Avs, they got smoked on Monday versus the Senators, 7-2 with Swayman in net. And looking at who was in net, Swayman was also in net for Colorado, where he only allowed 2 goals this time. But getting smoked 7-2 against the Senators and then beating the Islanders 5-2 after coming down from a 2-0 deficit early in the game. And that's nice. That's a good thing. And now they're beating the Sabres 3-2 with 9 minutes remaining. And by the way, Buffalo has yet to win on the road. They haven't won on the road at all. So it's coming to a situation where I know it's October 30th. There is plenty of season remaining. Again, the playoffs don't start until friggin' April. All right? So we still have November, December, January, March, February, May, April. What? Did I just... do I know my stuff? Do I know the calendar? November, December, January, February, March, April. Okay. now that we got that squared away, it's 6 months away. April is 6 months away. We still have 6 months of hockey. Okay? And I am not throwing this season down the gutter. I am not. But I am nervous as all hell because I wouldn't be surprised around the start of December, mid-November, start of December, mid-December. Holy crap! I'm here and then I'm not. Start of December, mid-December. I'm doing an episode where I'm waving the white flag because this team clearly doesn't have it. I'm going to give them some time. I'm not looking to write them off, today because that's foolish. Freaking 12 games into the season, 13 games into the season after tonight. But at the same time, I'm also watching and paying attention going, we're not a good hockey team. And everything that Marco Sturm is preaching, we're playing the exact opposite. That's not the type of game, that's not the type of relationship players and coaches should have. If a coach is preaching defense, yet you're giving up 7, 5, 4, 4 goals a game, where the hell is that defense? You got some guys now talking about trading Charlie McAvoy, trading David Pastrnak, trading some of the big names on this team because you're going to get a haul. And right now, you would have to overpay today. For me to let go of Charlie McAvoy today, you would have to give me a haul that would rival the biggest trade in NHL history. Because I am not letting go of a guy 13 games into a season who is my number one defenseman. Just not. So the fact that those discussions are going on right now is not a good sign. It is not a good sign for this team and this organization. It seems like we're going to have a very, very long season. I hope not. I hope this team can get their act together. But as it stands on October 30th, fighting for that 8 seed, even that seems out of reach, which is scary. So going from one TD Garden team to another, we get the Boston Celtics, who started the season off 0-3. They started the season off 0-3. They should have beaten the Sixers in that first game. You had several Celtics media pundits talk about how the Sixers survived, that the Sixers, came back and fought hard. I would argue that it was the Celtics' fault that the Sixers won that game. The Sixers gave you every chance in hell to win that game to start the season, and you couldn't take advantage of it. You couldn't. On top of the fact you have Peyton Pritchard taking the final freaking shot of the game. It's like, what are we doing? Twice he did that. Or I should say twice. He took the ball out and then got fouled, and then blah, 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 blah. He did take the final shot of the game, which I thought was foolish from the baseline, of all places. Not the greatest shot selection there, especially with the, Pritchard. You have Jaylen Brown, you got Derek White. I trust those two a hell of a lot more than I do Pritchard. And don't get me wrong, I do trust Pritchard, but I am not there yet with the kid. He's still the sixth man in my eyes. I know he's starting, and I know why he's starting, and I don't mind it. I think he has that capability. But when you have Jaylen Brown who Jaylen Brown's supposed to be the guy. Talked about this last week. This is his show. This is his game, his time. Jaylen Brown's got to be the guy to take the shot right there. He just does. And that's where I looked at it going, and it felt like, too, that, okay, yeah, you can say, oh, well, Jaylen Brown was covered. He couldn't get open. Okay, then why does every other superstar get open? Why do you have guys who are double teamed? Why does Steph Curry, who's double teamed, triple teamed, still find ways to get that ball and get the shot off right before the end of the game if he needs to? I understand Steph Curry, Jaylen Brown, but Jaylen Brown wants to be treated like a superstar like Steph Curry. So that's why, to me, he's got to find a way to do that. He's got to find a way to get open. And you go from there to getting your ass handed to you by the Knicks, then losing to the Pistons, only to crawl back within 3, 106-109 with 3:21 in the fourth, just to lose. And not only lose, barely score a few more points. Get to 113, but Detroit was already long gone by that point. So then, luckily, they go to New Orleans. New Orleans sucks. Terrible, terrible NBA venue, spot, everything about it. It's not an NBA team by any stretch of the imagination. And they get the win there. Then they won against Cleveland last night, which was a nice victory for them. I think that was a good victory. Now, was it because Donovan Mitchell was coming off an injury? Could be. I'm not going to deny that. I think it absolutely had something to do with it. But at the same time, I'm also looking at it going, it seems like this team is back to their old ways. And now you're asking yourself, well, Tim, what do you mean they're back to their old ways? I'm glad you asked. The Celtics are in love with their three-pointers. Always have been and seemingly always will be because of the freaking analytics. Against Philadelphia, they took 43 threes off of 91 field goal attempts. Against the Knicks, they took 44 threes off of 82 field goal attempts. At Detroit, 45 three-point attempts on 94 field goal attempts. Against New Orleans, 53 threes attempted to a total of 95 field goal attempts. And then against Cleveland, they took 57 threes on 95 shots. And then on the right-hand side of that, they shot 25.6% against Philly, 34.1%, all of which are from three, by the way. 34.1% against the Knicks, 33.3% against the Pistons, 33.9% against the Pelicans, and then 36.8% against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Obviously, the first 3 games they lost. The last 2, they won. What bothers me is looking at that. Their 3 losses, they shot below 53s, and that Joe Mazzulla and the nerds upstairs are going to look at that and say, oh, well, if you shoot over 53s in a game, it's going to result in wins. Man, we love sports, except we love the numbers, which have nothing to do with sports. It's so stupid the way these people just look at the game. Why are we sitting here taking 44 plus three-point attempts in a game, averaging what? Anywhere between 40 and 60% of your shots taken are from behind the line. Why? Because you can get a wide open shot? Because if you drive to the paint, paint, then kick out. You got a wide open shot, yet you're shooting at what, a 30% clip? So every 3 of every 10 shots is going to go in, versus driving to the hole. Yeah, you're going to come up against more defense, but the closer you get to the rim, the higher percentage the shot is. Unless you're Xavier Tillman in the waning moments of the opening game against the Sixers. Otherwise, I don't know about you, but it just sit here watching that game last night. How could you not sit there and be like, there's a 3, there's a 3, there's another 3, there's a 3. It's not entertaining. And we're already going down a rabbit hole of Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, the FBI investigating how much gambling there is going on, which I'm definitely going to discuss. I just want to do a little bit more research before I talk about it. But you're already threatening the fact that this game is rigged to some degree. And rigged is a strong word. I don't mean rigged, but tainted. I think right now tainted is a strong word, is a good word. The NBA is already a tough product as is. I will sit here and say this. I love the game of basketball. Always have, always will. I wanted to play in the NBA when I was a kid growing up. I idolized Paul Pierce. He was my favorite Celtic player growing up. And obviously, between the fact that I'm 5'9" and white, like, I'm obviously not going to play in the NBA. But the thing about it is, I love the sport of basketball. I love the Boston Celtics. I just hate the NBA product. It has sucked. It has sucked for a long time. And it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. The more these analytics come in, the more that it's like, no, we got to take 3s. See? The numbers say this. We got the Excel spreadsheets that are just like going all over the place. Like, what are we doing? It is not entertaining to sit there and just watch guys chuck it from deep. When we used to, the 90s had the baseball. During the steroid era, Major League Baseball had a great ad with Tom Glavine and Greg Maddux talking about how chicks dig the long ball. Not for nothing, and when it comes to the sport of basketball, people enjoy dunks more than they do three-point attempts. That's just a fact. I would be shocked. Maybe in today's day and age, when you have the kids, these analytical nerds, because they only grow up reading box scores rather than anything else, rather than watching the game, I should say. Maybe that's why they enjoy the 3. They enjoy the 3 in between the 3-point line and half court. It's fine. It's like, it's wow. But I don't care who it is that takes it. Every time Steph Curry puts up that shot, I sit there and I'm immediately like, that was a terrible shot. As the ball is flying through the air. And then because it's Steph Curry, it goes in. He takes great shots. But unless it's a game-winning shot, dunks are a hell of a lot more entertaining than three-point attempts are. There's a reason why the dunk contest was this revered part of the NBA in the NBA All-Star Weekend until LeBron James was too scared and too chicken to take part in it, which is why he ruined the NBA dunk competition. Because he didn't do it. Other superstars were like, well, if he doesn't do it, I'm not going to do it. And now we're getting friggin' G Leaguers winning it, who don't even play in the NBA. They'll get in for the final 5 minutes of a game on a team that is already out of playoff contention in the final week of the season. That's it. Those are the guys now competing in the dunk contest. The NBA All-Star Weekend was fun, but now it sucks. Otherwise, this idea that we have to keep throwing up threes, the Celtics do, because the numbers say so, is absolutely asinine. And they're calling for Joe Mazzulla, gone on record, calling for 2-on-1s, trying to get that, situation, but it's not happening. Why? Because you don't have Jason Tatum. No one is afraid of Jaylen Brown right now. Has he had a couple of great games? He has. Has he been the number one guy? Absolutely. In several of these games, but not every game. He hasn't taken the reins over in every game. And that was the beauty about Jason Tatum's game, is he's dropping 25 to 35 points a night while also getting 5 to 10 assists a game. That's what I think Jaylen Brown is missing. And I'm not saying that he can't do that. I think he absolutely can. I think he's extremely talented, which is why I kept saying to you guys last week, the week prior, even this week, if you're still getting the Celtics, win totals being over under 40.5, you smash the over every single time. I keep saying that. But it's because I think Jaylen Brown is extremely talented. I think he's talented enough to be a number one guy. The only question is he a number one guy on a contending team, or is he a number one guy on a non-playoff team? That's it. That's the difference. And that's what this time period is for Jaylen Brown to show. Is for him to show that, yeah, I am taking the back seat to Jason Tatum, and I'm being, the Robin to his Batman. But you give me, you put me off on that team, I can make them a contender. And I've shown that I can, make a Jason Tatum-less Celtics a contender. That's what this part of the year is all about. And I get it. It's just like not like the Bruins, because I actually have hope for the Celtics. I believe that they are a 4th or 5th seed in the Eastern Conference come playoff time. With everything that's going on currently, I still believe that they can do that without a doubt. But we're getting to a point where it's the same story, different day. They're taking 1,000 threes. Half of their shots are 3-point attempts, whether they're good shots or bad shots. And the worst part is you have the numbers and the computers telling you that a wide open three on a night, you're shooting anywhere from 20 to 25%. Hell, I'll even give you 35% from three is still a better option than getting a higher percentage shot in the paint with a little bit more defense in front of you. So even though you're wide open from three, on a night you're shooting anywhere from 20 to 35% from three, I would still rather them drive to the hole, deal with a little bit of contact, get into the paint, and get an easier bucket. Because that's why driving to the hole and getting an easy bucket is synonymous with one another. That's the point. Is, yeah, you're going to deal with contact. Yes, you're going to come up against their center, their power forwards, which, again, we all know now basketball is positionless basketball. Stupid. But you're going to deal with guys in the paint. But being in the paint, it's a hell of a lot easier bucket than it is from behind the arc. Yes, threes are worth more than twos, obviously. But I would rather shoot 60 to 70% inside the paint, 60 to 80% inside the paint, than 20 to 35% from beyond the arc. And I don't even know, 60 I think is extremely low, if you're getting into the paint like that. But in and around the paint, all right? If you have to do a fadeaway, whatever. You understand the point that I'm trying to make. So that's the stuff that bothers me. And I get it. I mean, they're hell-bent on doing this, and I'm not surprised because it's been this way for a long time, and I'm going to keep constantly calling it out, especially when it doesn't work. But this team is just too talented to be playing like this. I think Derek White has lost a step in his game because of the style of play. When he first got here, and I still think to this team, to this day, but Derek White is a smart basketball player. I think he's the smartest player on the court. And he's willing to do the dirty stuff, the gritty stuff. He chipped a tooth in the NBA Finals, just diving for the ball, but having him set behind the line is wasting his talent and potential. If anything, what Derek White should be doing is running the floor. He should be the one walking the ball up, and the offense runs through White. Not saying that Derek White is more of a superstar than Jaylen Brown. That's not my point. It's just that he runs the offense. Derek White does. Not Peyton Pritchard, not Jaylen Brown. Let those guys be extras. Let Peyton Pritchard set himself up behind the arc, and let Derek White do what he has to do to get him the ball, whether it's drive to the hole, dish out, or a couple passes here and there, and then next thing you know, it finds Pritchard. Jaylen Brown, give him the ball. Once you get over half court, let him go to work. ISO, let him maybe come up, set him a screen, let him pick and roll, like all those things. Like, it's not hard. But sometimes the way the game is played, and again, I'm not sitting here saying that I know the ins and outs of the game. I know a lot about the game. Obviously, I'm just saying, yes, Monday morning quarterback, gotta love it. Like, I'm not stupid. But this idea that you have to take 45 to 55 threes a game in order to win, that's bogus. That is absolutely bogus. So, tell me what you guys think below. All right, it's going to be an interesting season for the Celtics. Hell, the Pats have an easy path, as we talked about, to getting a top seed in the AFC playoffs, and the Bruins, God love them. So, one more time we got, oh my God, the Sabres forced overtime. Sabres have yet to win on the road. Fun fact. 3-3 with 3:30 left in overtime. So, all right. Well, on that note, thank you guys so much for sticking around, tuning in. I am Tim Barnett of the Boston Sports Summit. Don't forget, you can get a merch. We got merch store that's going to be attached to the link below, or the description. So check that out. Get your Boston Sports Summit merch. And this show is presented by the Grid Network. Thank you. Shout out to them. They got a great channel full of great content creators. Follow them, as well as follow me. You got Instagram, Boston Sports Summit, on X, Boss Sports Summit, and on YouTube, Boston Sports Summit as well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really appreciate you. And we will be back. I hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll be back next week, wrapping up Patriots, Falcons. So have a great weekend. Let's go Pats, baby. And God bless. Thank you, guys.